Hey folks, Fernando doing a video for Tomorrow Survival. It's kind of late, but I just want to do this video in case you haven't seen the Joker movie, and I have here 5 great reasons why I think you should. And it's going to be mostly spoiler free. I'll give you a fair warning when I talk about something that's a little bit more plot relevant that you may want to stop watching at that point, but I'll give you a warning regarding that. Number 1, no spoiler there whatsoever, is simply it's a fantastic movie. It's a great movie. It's very well acted, maybe some of the best acting you'll see all year or ever. Joaquin Phoenix, he does a fantastic job there. It's gut-wrenching, it's terrible, it's sad, it's pathetic, it's acting like I haven't seen in a very long time. Heath Ledger set the bar very high. I think it's even better. I think it's even darker and more realistic. There's nothing cool or funny, or it's just a sad guy, and he just portrays that so very well. Let me know in the comments if you think it's better or not, if you've seen the movie, or if after you see it, if you like the Joker Joaquin Phoenix does better than Heath Ledger or not, which one you like the most. I like this one a little bit better. I think it's just a crank it up a couple notches or so in how terrible and realistic it is. A very fucked up, disturbed individual. And then the entire movie is just fantastic. The script is also very good, full of little pearls here and there. It's just a great movie all around. Some people say it's a little bit slow at first. I don't think it is. It just I enjoy the movie, even though it's terrible. I did enjoy the movie every second of it. So yeah, just for the acting of Joaquin Phoenix alone, just go watch the movie. If the guy doesn't get an Oscar for that, there's something very much wrong in the world. Number 2 is, and this is a great reason as well, is because it upsets and pisses off liberals and people on the left. CNN hates the movie. Rotten Tomatoes give it like a 20% at first. Now it's going up. But when in Rotten Tomatoes you have like a 20% from the critics and 90% from the public, and now they're kind of trying to level that a little bit. But it was very clear that the left is social justice warrior types, woke people, liberal types. They just didn't like the movie. Why? I really don't know why, because there's a couple points which we'll get in a second that are very much social criticism that you'd think would be flags that the left would raise at some point, especially we'll get there in a minute. But there's a couple points that are very critical of society as it is right now that you'd think the left would appreciate to some point, but some of the things I read was that it was like it justifies the angry white male. That's complete bullshit, because they clearly didn't understand what the movie was about. It's not about an angry white man. It's about mental sickness. That's what this movie is about, really, and how that's being addressed. So just because of that, go watch it. Just if CNN doesn't want you to watch something, you probably want to go see it. Number 3 is because just doesn't piss off the left, it may piss you off a little bit as well. And that's not necessarily bad, to be out of your comfort zone, to think about things in a different way. I enjoyed the movie throughout. And there's a few things that you were like, yeah man, that's fucked up, that makes sense, or you see what they're trying to say, you see the message at the end. So yeah, that makes you think a little bit, and makes you maybe a little bit uncomfortable, and you question things that you previously didn't question, and that's, I think, is good as well. So a good reason also to go watch it. Number 4 would be not because the movie is pro-gun, because I don't think the movie is pro-gun, but it's definitely not anti-gun. If anything, it shows very well how the gun doesn't really matter when there's a crazy person out there doing crazy things. I mean, it could have been something else that was used, but it's very clear in the movie that the gun is just a tool, and anything could have been used. And even the gun used by the Joker in the movie is like a snubby revolver 38, the most the most nothing gun you could possibly think of. It's not an AR-15 or a high capacity automatic or anything cool like that. No, it's just the most grandpa type of handgun you could think of. And again, it just goes to show that just doesn't matter. It's the crazy person doing crazy things is what really matters. It's not the gun that makes people into the Joker. That's not what's happening in the movie. So that's a good point as well. I like that in the movie as well. Number 5, and here a little bit of a fair warning: if you're going to be watching the movie and you want to have the full experience of it, maybe stop watching at this point, okay? Having said that, the social criticism in the movie is very powerful. Why? Well, because the Joker is just a fucked up person. He's not, I mean, it's hard even to say that he's evil. He's just a wreck of a human being. And going back to these things about mass shootings and how mentally sick people that should not be out there on the streets do terrible things, and are they really evil? Are they sick? I don't know. It may depend. It may depend on each case. But in this case, specifically for the movie, in this movie, you can see that the guy was just a shell of a person. There's great scenes where he says, the mother calls him a happy boy, and he says, "I've never been happy one moment in my life." He's talking with his shrink, and this was in the trailer. He's talking with his shrink, and he said, and she asks him, "Have you had any negative thoughts?" And the guy says, "All I have are negative thoughts. That's all I have in my life, because my life is a complete disaster, a complete mess." But there's also the stance from what would be the elites in the movie. You have the father of Bruce Wayne, Thomas Wayne, who's like the successful guy who would represent kind of the elites there in the movie. And he says, all these losers will come after us because we made something out of our lives and such. But he's very condescending, but also presenting it in an angle like if you're not successful, if you haven't achieved things like he did on that level, if you're not rich, successful, then it kind of like you don't matter really. Is that really okay? And when we see these things that happen in the real world, when we see mass shootings and crazy people do crazy things, one of the things we say when they go after guns is it's not about the guns, it's about mental health. And when we talk about that, we sometimes don't like to talk about, okay, how are we going to be fixing that? What's the solution for a very serious mental health problem? And in the case of the Joker, going back to the movie, is the Joker was failed by society, by the government, by whatever structure should have been looking after him since the moment he was born. Because, again, fair warning in terms of spoiler alert here, so stop watching, but the Joker was adopted by his crazy mother, and he was abused by the mother. He was abused and molested by the mother's boyfriends, the different boyfriends that she had throughout the years, chained to radiators, beating the crap out of. That because of that, he laughs uncontrollably. So it's very pitiful. The movie is terrible. Because of the brain damage he sustained, he laughs uncontrollably when he's nervous. So he hands people over a little card that says, "I'm laughing because I have a mental problem, a mental damage. It's not because I'm disrespectful. Please hand over a card again to me." And people just don't acknowledge that. They just don't care. Society doesn't care about this guy. Society doesn't care about a wreck of a person like this guy. But again, the point is, when we talk about these things, at the same time the discussion is often, okay, but who's going to be paying for that? What is it, like free healthcare? We don't like that. Okay, well, who is going to be providing the healthcare for a baby? Who's going to be looking after a baby that has no way of supporting himself, of looking after himself in any way? Shouldn't there be like a structure, something that protects this kid? Well, in the movie, it's very clear that whatever structure, whatever thing that should have been looking after him, because he's simply incapable. I mean, when you're a little baby being giving up in adoption, there's really nothing you can do about it yourself. So someone else, society, the government, something, there has to be some structure that looks after you, right? That's the welfare type of criticism in the movie. Well, that failed. And it failed when he was being abused, and it failed when he continued to be abused throughout the years as a kid, throughout his childhood. throughout the entire process. I mean, from the moment he was handed over to a crazy lady that should not have been able to adopt him, and the abuse he sustained since then, no one looking after him in any way, that's the Joker. That's what happens to the guy. And there's even scenes when he's an adult that he's seeing a shrink, and all of a sudden the shrink says, "This is our last sessions because the funds are getting cut. I'm not going to be able to see you anymore." And the guy goes, "Well, how am I going to be getting my medication?" You know, because he has a job, he's like a clown thing, but he's clearly poor minimum wage type of guy, and he cannot afford all that. And he takes like 6 different medications for his, mental problems and his brain damage and whatnot. So all of a sudden they cut that from him. He has no access to that anymore, and that's the point where things start getting very much wrong. So yeah, very social critical. So that's a little bit surprising how the left didn't raise that flag there, like, oh, look, here is like something that the healthcare thing is being critical here. This is something that we like to bring up. Well, no, it obviously flew over their heads, and it would have at least made for an interesting discussion if they had at least noticed it, but they clearly did not. Then there's also this thing about the elites and how life doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're not rich and successful, and if you're just one of the masses, you're nothing. And kind of in the end of the movie, there's like this Occupy Wall Street type of thing going on, where society raises and they have this. They have the Joker as like a figure, as a symbol of that uprising kind of thing going on. So I don't know, I just liked it. I think it was a great, first of all, just a fantastic movie, and the criticism, the message, all that stuff was there as well, and I think it was valuable and interesting at least. So yeah, go watch the movie, subscribe to the channel, let me know if you liked it on the comments below. If you've already seen it, let me know in the comments, and we'll talk a little bit about that there. And that's it, have an awesome day, see you on our next video.